we've seen the handouts, we've seen the structures. Yeah. Do you think phrases like the Black independent woman should work in today's society with Black people? Do you feel like we need to even be, considering a Black independent woman in terms of the family structure? Because reason being, as we just stated right now, we never had we never have taken that accountability on obviously going for these council houses, going for all these free stuff and whatnot, and knowing that it's destroying our family later on. I've always said to people that like all these youths that are out here running around stabbing people, selling drugs, or whatever, you got to start from how it all started. And their mother may have just said, you know what? Not in all cases, but in some cases, you've got one mother that might have. No, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. So
forget the not all thing. Just say it. Like, just say what you're saying. And everyone knows you don't mean all.
No. Not everyone knows that. You four know that, but not everyone knows that. So, brother, I need to be clear because nowadays, right now, people are just so misconstrued with bare nonsense. But it's just like, I need people to understand that, like, I'm coming from a place of education. So when it comes to, there's one woman that might be like, you know what? I remember girls when I was in school, like, I'm just going to get my council spot. Well, if I have a you, I have a you, innit? I don't really care, innit? You get me? And then you got the other side now where you got both parents that have come from back home, but they're so focused on work, on church and whatnot. They feel like they're in a country that's just going to pick up the same cultural practices they had back when they were back home. Like my mum was saying, in Ghana, she could leave her door open and go work and then come home. No one's going to rob her house. No one's going to go in her house and take anything. Whereas with here, it's like they will leave their child with a childminder, have their child in Saturday school, have their child in after school club, thinking that, this is fine because we're in Britain, they're just going to teach them whatever, but not realizing the system's raising your child. So now the child gets to 14 and you have no connection with them. They're consistently running away from home. And when it looks like in the Black family, when you're saying, there's more single mother parent households, blah, blah, blah. Right now, in terms of reconstructing the Black family, because that's what we're trying to do you lot think that it's worth, like, do you lot think the Black independent woman works? I know it probably may be like a rhetorical question, but then for some people in their head, the ideology of a Black independent woman is different to what they think it is. Do you see where I'm coming from? So, I'm not
Black independent the Black independent woman, it doesn't work. It doesn't. I mean, unless you have to do it, then it doesn't work. And the best thing to do is to have a partner to help you in certain situations. And it's obvious, it's obvious that we need a Black man and we need a Black woman in a household with children. But I think one of the things that happened to us as well, even our parents were quick to kind of push us up. Whereas every parent there, but I shoot my children out of my house into council. I'm doing it. So I don't know if things like me, I'm not sure, but have to get on with this house. That's what they have to have. So get on nerves, but I'm not kicking them out of my house. And even when, and I think, our parents kind of felt ashamed for us to help us, so they wanted us to go out there and make, but you don't push it, don't, because it's a hard out. Your children have to be fully equipped to deal with this world. It's your responsibility as a parent. So for me, I don't know. I feel like this generation is changing because of people still really kicking out their children into this world. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with that, nowadays, I don't know. I wouldn't say a lot of parents are. What I'm seeing now is there's this whole escapism thing. So what a lot of children are probably doing at 16 and 17, they're not dealing with the whole, I'm just going to go get a job, because getting a job right now, full-time jobs, is a myth. So a lot of people are trying to go to study abroad. So there was a big, massive influx of doing that or working abroad. I think Vicky will probably agree with this one. Back in uni times, like 2010, 2011, a lot of people are going to Dubai. A lot of people are going to Saudi and then places there to work there because they realize, raw, if I can work over there, not get taxed, two, they can sort out my accommodation. Even if I go over there for 4 years or 3 years or 5 years, and I can save my money when I come back to the UK, I can buy my house or start my own business and whatnot. And I know some guys that have come back and done that. I know some guys that have come back and, you know, they started IT companies, they started businesses, because when you're out obviously in Saudi and in places there, again, the whole dealing with the whole question of family and reconstructing the family, they don't have. Cool, Dubai maybe. I mean, I know Karen's been to Dubai, so you might be able to elaborate more. But I know Dubai is more kind of touristy, and you got certain places there. But Qatar, places like Abu Dhabi, it's not a heavy entertainment culture like how we have over in the Western world. So really, when you're there, you're kind of focused. Do you see where I'm coming from? You're kind of focused. You ain't really got a chance to kind of mess around. And the Arab come like the no nonsense people, anyways. So you're the ones there. So I feel like, back to the independent black woman thing, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because people like Oprah, you know, all these other, I know they're trying to use this Kamala Harris woman now in America, symbol of.
She ain't black.
Listen, them people there don't even get me started on her, because, again, years and years of this whole government handouts, sitting on the fence, you know, taking all these freebies has made women now look at men in the sense of like, raw, I don't really need you to survive. Not all women, but obviously I don't really need you to survive in this type
but
of
Kamala Harris is married. But Kamala Harris is married.
Anyway, I know a lot of people are onto her about some of her laws that she passed when she was governor about, you know, black men going to prison, black men going to jail and whatnot. And I'm finding that there's this hard attack on black men from these so-called women of power. So Oprah, for example, another one. You're seeing her come out with, you know, the Russell Simmons documentary. She's getting hard on R. Kelly. She was getting hard on Michael Jackson. And the Michael Jackson one, for me personally, looking at it, it's like, you can tell these people are just lying. You know, the ones there found, the man's been dead 10 years. And, you know, these youths have come out talking about whatever, blah, blah. Now, when I look back at their stories, you find there's a lot of trauma and there's a lot of psychological, psychological trauma and a lot of mad things that's happened to them by black men in their past. Now, I'm not saying that validates what they're doing, but what you're finding is that because certain people ain't healed from their past traumas now, you're now getting this whole new abscess of just, oh, well, I'm going to get mine. You know, what's that saying? Oh, you can't wait for a man to come and do it for you and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. You can't hope for, you know, there's no such thing as a happy, what was the term they used in one film? I think it was Selma, one of the movies that they'll use one coonish term. I was just like, raw, like, but again, what you're seeing is, like we said before, back in the past, people didn't really learn from the mistakes. Anyway, I know Vicky looks like she's got a lot to say, and I want her to, you know, what's there? No, I know you listen.
Vicky.
To be honest, I think like there's two perceptions you can have of independent. Like, what does independent mean in it? So, like, I feel like it can, like anything, I think everything's got a good side and a bad side to it. Do you get what I mean? So, to me, somebody is independent doesn't mean that it's somebody that's completely isolated and is by themselves. But I feel like, for me, it can still work in the black family.
Yeah.
Because the idea that I have of an independent woman is somebody who, for example, if my dad is not contributing to the household, my mum can still take care of everything and everybody in the household. It doesn't now mean she pushes him away and she gets rid of him. But if he loses his job, she can still do you get what I mean? She can still take care of everything and everyone, every bill, etc. And vice versa. So I don't see independent as being separate from, let's say, everybody else. Because realistically, people have family who support them. People also have friends who provide support to them. So for me, I feel like it still can work. And I think it's important in a sense because there's a lot of, was it 1/3, you know, statistics say different things on different things. But there is a higher rate of black women being the sole breadwinners in their households. Now that doesn't mean they're single mothers, but it does mean that they're still independent. Do you get what I mean? They're still able to really take care of everything in the home,
But then
including their partner.
Just to chime in, sorry to cut you, just to chime in on that, because obviously that's cool, but is the mother teaching the daughter, look, when you get older, like, you know, you can still there's still hope for you to find a man that's going to provide. You don't have to do it my way. Because what I find in some of them situations, the mother's not doing that. The mother's saying to her, no.
But that's the belief that there's an option there. Because what I'm thinking about is there's situations where, like, I've always seen partnership in growing up, I always saw partnership. So it's like, if it's more, like, for example, you can't pick and choose when you're going to lose a job. If you work a job and you go to work, or even if you own a business, you can't pick your downtimes. You can try to predict them. You can try to feel like, maybe I can see that this is coming, but you can't always tell. And in the essence of when things go wrong, like we were kind of talking about earlier, about what do we think ruin the homes or families, like employment was a massive thing because it was seen that men should be breadwinners. Men also have a higher rate of suicide, though. Do you get what I mean? In terms of that pressure and them not being able to talk about their feelings and emotions. I don't want to digress too much into that, but that's a fact. So I always grew up thinking, I want to be able to bring enough to the table to also take care of my family. Not in a case where I feel like I have to, but if I had to, I could. Obviously, I don't have kids right now, so that's not a thing. I can't say my theories. I haven't tested my theory in reality. Do you get what I mean? But I can take care of myself. No, I do pay for all my bills. But, you know, it's just that thought of, you know, sometimes things are out of your control and things happen. So does that then mean your family should go to shreds because dad's not in work anymore? Mum's payment can't cover nothing in the house or can barely cover the rent.
I think maybe women are trying to help. The women are trying to help out as well, instead of just not like leaving it all the burden of my mind. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, that's it, because I mean, even for my own children, even for Jada, she's gonna be independent. But I still want her to find a nice, decent, independent young man. But she has to other. I mean, fundamentally, they have their roles. She sees that in this household as well. Independent, still cook. I still clean. I still do things for my husband. And but he's a good man, so that's the reason I do those things.
So then,
you know, but
so would you say, because obviously that's again, that's the example I'm talking about, because they're seeing the role models in your household. They're seeing, well, mum still does certain things that the media will deem as, oh, you know, she's a housewife or whatever. You're still having your woman role. So would you then say Jada then essentially will be an example of a strong black woman? Then
she's gonna be a very strong black woman. She already is. Jada's a strong black woman. She's not I mean, all the things that you see on social media about black girls, Jada ain't that. I'm telling you that now. Jada's not that. She's 17 going on 18. I'm not trying to say I know everything about her life, but we have a very good relationship. And just the way how we are, and I'm very open with her and things like that. And her dad's very open with her. We don't hide things from her. But she's independent. She's independent, and obviously she wants a nice, independent black man who they can build together. She doesn't want to be independent on her own. Who's independent on her own? Every woman wants a man.
That's true. Listen, I know girls are gonna lie and say, nah. Every woman wants a man, just the same way every man wants a woman.
Of course they do. Because who the hell wants to do all of that on their own?
Right. So, do you want me to respond?
Yeah, no, go on. Yeah, say what you
Let me tell you something. In regards to what you said, yes, I'll give the easy one first. I don't necessarily think women like Oprah and that necessarily say stuff about us because of their trauma. I'm not saying they don't have it. I'm just saying I don't think they do it because of their trauma. I think they got that trauma regardless. And if it weren't this in media, they do something else. The reason it comes across as how you defined it is because for many years, I'm just going to keep it real. And Vicky and Karen, do not take this the wrong way. I'm not talking about you. That's my definition of not all. But as far as media is concerned, Black women have been talking out. They've been talking reckless out the mouth since I've been in primary school. The Ricky Lake show, the Oprah Winfrey show, all these shows talking all this stuff. And they've been used to it to the point where even when we're around our aunts and we hear them saying certain stuff about men, we just laugh about it because we're just used to it. We're used to it. That's why now, but it's like back then, we're used to it because all these women, they were put on that pedestal to make those complaints about men. And, you know, some men did do some fuck shit, so they should get addressed. The problem was that them times there, Black men didn't have the media on their side to give an appropriate response. You get what I'm trying to say? That's why now today with social media, we're getting a response and women deem it as, you're bashing. No, you're getting a response to all the crud that you were talking for the last 30 plus years. But because you're not used to it, do you get what I'm trying to say? It comes across as that. It's like there's a saying, it ain't no fun when the rabbit's got a gun. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, when you're hunting the rabbit and the fox and that, it's cool, innit? But it's like when the fox starts responding now and it's like, rah, the fox has got a shotty as well, you feel a bit differently, innit? And that's what's happened. The balance of the discussion changed. So I don't necessarily think that Oprah and them people are saying, like, doing those things because of trauma or it's happening to us because of their trauma. It's just the balance was kind of skewed. The media was more on their side back then.
I think with Oprah and them people anyway, I think with them it's deliberate. So I wasn't even trying to defend them at all. I was just trying to explain.
No, I know you weren't defending them. I'm saying that what they're doing, I don't necessarily think it's because of the trauma why they've done it. I kind of think that people like Oprah is just a go-to person that a lot of Black men do complain about, even down to people like Tyler Perry and all that. Like, even I used to do it. You get me? I used to say, oh, these people, look what they're saying about Black men. But I actually deeped it. It's not even that. It's like, put it this way. If we had a Revolt TV and we had, well, if Nick Cannon did own his thing, like, you know, his little pod, like, imagine all these podcasts you see of all these Black men talking today. If we had those as established media houses back then, would we take what the Black women are saying about us that seriously or that offensive? Or would it be more like just normal dialogue or conversation? I would go with the latter because it's just a normal conversation. You see what I'm trying to say? But we haven't been able to. And then don't forget, them TV shows back in the day or them little talk shows, they're geared up to get ratings. So it's going to get people riled up and whatever else. Like, them little Ricky Lake and Oprah Winfrey shows did not have a comment section. But now we do. So let a woman talk some rubbish now and someone will be like in the comment section, hold a minute, but ain't this you? And with screenshots, ain't this you at this club last week doing this? So it gets shut down quick. You get what I'm trying to say? So because of that, it's more of a balanced conversation. Now,
I think, yeah, go on, finish.
The next thing, in terms of that whole independent thing, let me say something. That independent thing don't mean nothing to me. Every woman's an independent woman until a washing machine broke, and then see how she talking. So I don't even care about. I used to kind of be on the bandwagon of, oh, you shouldn't be calling yourself independent. No, go on. When they say it now, I say, oh, that's cute. You know, wait until your head gasket goes in your car and see what happens when you call me, because I know how to fix that stuff, and I know that tight jean, skinny jean brother that you're dealing with, he can't do it. So that stuff's for the birds. And as for the last thing, what Karen was saying in terms of like how we raise our kids and that, if I had a daughter, I would also raise her to be independent, but not because of a whole woman empowerment thing or anything like that. Or I'd do it more because I've worked with enough kids in care now and seen certain things over the years. I've seen exactly the kind of sons that a lot of these women are raising. And when I say women, I'm talking like the single parents, because disproportionately there's a lot of them raising boys. I know the kind of boys they're raising. Yeah, you need to be raising your daughter to be independent, because I'm telling you right now, these sons ain't going to be what you think they're going to be. They are not going to be. And the funny thing is, we like to say things like, oh, it's because the men ain't stepping up, or it's because the women's doing this. Actually, I always laugh because I said to a woman once, I said, you know what? The 25-year-old you thinks I'm bashing, but the 45-year-old you wants me to mentor your son. That's the truth. You get me? So I don't even get caught up in all of that no more, because when you've actually checked the timeline, I know women that's got kids that are 2, I know women that's got kids that are 25, and the tune changes, especially as the kid gets older, especially if it's a boy. Trainers, Call of Duty and Battlefield come out the same week. You know what I mean? You ain't earning enough peas now. Your son's doing all kind of madness. He's not into football no more. You know what I mean? He's doing up road with his friends in Newham, doing all kind of madness. And now you're talking about mentor and all that. So to be quite honest, I don't want to get caught up in the whole thing of raising your daughter to be strong, but just loving your son. Because what you're then doing, you're making...
The thing is, on another note, I talk a lot about Jada because Jada's the oldest, but my son is the youngest, and he's going to be 13 in October, and he's a very independent. He's very independent. He does everything that his sisters do, including cooking, cleaning. They all have their rotas. He does all of that. But he's also looking in terms of having a family, and he wants a business himself. And he's not just talking like, I want a business. He's actually had a business. He had a business when he was 11. And I mean, he actually had a business. I'm not saying I gave him a business. He used his pocket money. He bought cheese chicks from Jamaica, and he had a business. So I think the point I was trying to make is that, yeah, there are a lot of young boys, because as Wayne was saying, being raised a certain way. But also, I feel like, you know, young boys need to be raised to be independent as well. And
yeah, but to be honest, you're right there, Karen. But to be honest, this goes right back to what I said. Boys ain't being raised; they're just being loved. That's all they're being loved. Like there's mums out there right now that's got sons that do music, and they're not even telling their son what PRS means. You see what I'm trying to say? They're not raising their sons. They're just loving their sons, keeping them safe. They don't want them to get stabbed and all that. Yeah, that's cool. You're loving them, but what you're also doing by mollycoddling them, you don't even know it. You're suffocating them as well. Not you, Karen, but I'm just saying generally. So
well, I don't know. Maybe I am, because I don't know.
No. I'm not saying you are, because I don't actually think you are. I'm just saying, generally speaking, there's a general consensus of how we raise our sons and our daughters. And just like how I said, I would do the same thing with my daughter, but I'm doing that based upon how I'm blatantly seeing how people are raising their sons. Because the mistake
So how would you raise your son in this day and age then?
The same way I was raised, know how to fix things, but even with that, know how to be applicable, like know how to use his hands. Anything that you consume, have some kind of interest in knowing how to, either make it, build it, repair it, own it, whatever. Have some kind of stake in it. That's basically how I'd raise my son in terms of that. But in fact, that's what I do. But at the same time, you can do these things, don't mean they're necessarily going to reciprocate the same way, because it depends what the other parent's teaching. And on top of that, it depends on the influences from the peer group. The peer group.
And then do you see why it's very important for two people to raise children in a unbroken family? Because the thing is, broken families do attribute to a lot of the things that we're seeing today. Because mum don't like dad, so dad will say this, and mum will say, no, you don't have to do that, because I don't like your dad anyway. So it's like, so I feel like
I don't disagree, but what I would say is I've seen the same thing with like married families as well. It really does come down to the child. Like, I'm not saying, obviously a married, like parents being together is obviously going to be better, hands down. I'm never going to say a single parent household is better than a 2-parent household. That's asinine. What I would say though, take me for example, I had both my parents. And even though I had both my parents, I found myself looking up to Tupac. And Tupac only had one of his parents. And one of my friends Jess knows who this friend is, so I don't even need to mention his name. He said, Wayne, back in the day, all these men were trying to be like us, but what you don't know, he was trying to be like you. You lot had both your parents. We didn't. You see what I'm trying to say? So even though you're raising your kids to be right, you don't know who your kids' peer group is. Your kids' peer group could be a group of idiots that they ain't got no father in the household. Like they got bare different stepbrothers from this person and XYZ. So we can only do the best we can with our children. But I'm telling you now, like the peer group outside of the household, their friends at school, the friends in the estate or the road, whatever, just their friends. That's always going to take control. So, but they're going to make mistakes. But the good thing is, if you do it the way you're doing it, like husband and all the rest of it, when they get into certain trouble and then they get into certain jams and they're by themselves and they're adults, that's when they'll refer back to the teachings they had as they were growing up. That's where it comes in handy.
No, you know what? Yeah, because I was literally going to say that part at the end. I'll let Vicky chime in. Then obviously we're going to just, because we've already moved into the alpha male section that I wanted to get into, and you mentioned Tyler Perry, so I'm going to get back to that in a sec. But yeah, Vicky, say what you say. You've got to chime in on what's
Don't
going
hold
on.
back, Vicky.
No, one of the things that I was thinking was just touching on a few of the things you said, Joe, were quite triggering to me. But just about like, for example, the media and the fact that they had, I think back in the day in terms of like Oprah, Ricky Lake, Trisha Goddard show, etc. They had a lot of lost causes on their shows, and they had a lot of ignorant people coming on making ignorant statements. And I feel like they had ignorant black women go in there and make statements, big, bold, ignorant statements. And they also had the same thing as black males also going on the show, also making ignorant statements. Because I remember there being pushes and about, you know, why black men don't like black women. And that was a big thing around a certain time. So that was like pushed, or the idea that when black men make it, they always end up going for white women. Like those narratives were being pushed. But the main point I wanted to make in saying that was these narratives are pushed by the media. We've got to understand who is controlling what message that they want to put out there. It's not the reality, because I grew up, my parents have been around for years. My dad is over 80. So it's not, these shows were out then, and that's not the reality of the household that I grew up in or the family that I saw around me, nor is it the reality of my cousins. So I feel like the media have a push, and even down to like on social media. So I think it's important to remember that when we're referring to these things, they are pushing their own type of narrative.
Yeah.
Get what I mean? And realistically, that's not the reality of, like, it's obviously a reality that's pushed out there. It's not to say it don't exist in no one's life, but just to remember that narrative is not being pushed by black people who are into or like maybe in two-parent households or in one-parent households, or just living their lives. Do you get what I mean? There's ignorant people and then there's humble people, and I feel like the narratives that are pushed for certain reasons, and they're encouraged and there's backings to it. So that's just one thing that I wanted to mention.
Touching on what all three of you have said, of Wayne, you mentioned Tyler Perry, Vicky, you made a very, very good point about the narrative, because I've always said to people that the media is the media's like the Valerian steel sword of white supremacy. That's the sword that is gonna cut so deep, because people, you see where I'm coming from, people will sit down there and see raw, but you're like, I'll go to a white area and they'll be like, oh, yo, what's going on? I'm like, bro, not every single black person speaks like that. But because they see Top Boy, they're thinking raw, like, you see where I'm coming from. And I'm not even dissing Top Boy, because again, you know, with the whole streets and that, I just feel like raw. If we really want the streets to, and on one hand, if we really want the streets and that to change, we've got to change the environment. Change the environment, the music may change, the content may change. You know, one's there, fam. But anyway, I'm gonna come to you in a sec, Vicky. I feel like with the alpha male thing, Tyler Perry was one of the main pioneers of this stupid feminization, of man wearing dresses, man coming on stage, acting all, you know, like, and even then they're interpreting the dysfunctional part of black women, like, you know, the crazy baby mother, or the crazy grandmother, or the promiscuous grandmother, all these, like, you know, no one's there, fam, like. And I feel like with the narrative, again, like you said, a lot of these rappers in these tight jeans and whatnot, What can we do to bring the alpha male back? Because clearly you can see he's been missing. He's been missing. Like, man can't even find right now. When I chat to most guys, yeah, younger guys, and you just speak to them just about gym, general things about gym and just about fitness and whatnot. And it's like for example, one guy I was chatting to, he was about 17 years old, yeah, and he's telling me about, he's getting ready to go out to meet this girl at Nando's, and he's telling me, oh yeah, I've been chatting to this girl for a long time or whatever. I said, oh, okay, cool. So what do you not talk about? He's like, oh yeah, basically, we talk about like everything. Like, she likes football. Like, I'm an Arsenal supporter. Then I just said to him, "Raw, like, so when you phone her and that, like, what time do you?" He goes, "No, I don't phone her." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Everything's been on text." And
Yeah.
I was like, what happened to a man just confronting a woman and just chatting to her? And like, all right, cool. Even if he was on the phone thing, at some point you'll meet up. Like, I remember chatting to a lady and then to girls, and it'll be like, raw, like, I'll be on the house phone, and then obviously, my mum will come in, cut the call, whatever. She feels like I'm running out the credit. I would always make sure I'm outside in the presence with a woman, because I feel like then you connect better. Now what you're finding is that it come like the opposite. It come like, man, if a woman don't text or call him, a man's like, oh, she don't phone me. Like, what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm not going to talk to her again. It's like, raw, like, I feel like, and even with that as well, Piers Morgan made a point on one of his interviews or radio shows just about the whole first, second, third, fourth, fifth. It's like kids are now getting praised in school for becoming fifth and sixth. And don't get me wrong, yeah, I'm not saying failing is wrong. I always promote failing to an extent. Failing, obviously, if you're trying to achieve something. But if you come sixth in a race, yeah, and you're supposed to be in the top three, and you're saying to the guys, don't worry about it, it's fine. Especially to men, yeah, don't worry about it, it's fine. You don't have to worry. He's going to keep that same energy with his kids. He's going to keep that same energy with his household, with his family, because in his head, he's going to think to himself, raw, like, why am I even, like, it's okay for me to be this way. Once they're like, and
that is exactly what I meant when I said people love their sons. It's okay, Eric, you came sixth place. Glad you lost.
Right. But brothers,
wait, that's another thing. I don't want to hear about this second and third place either. Second place is the first loser.
But you see what? I'm not saying, you see what you're saying there is true. And this is the thing. I want people to understand this very clearly. I'm not saying that, raw, you can't feel, because yes, you may come third all the time in a race, but then you realize, raw, 100 meters ain't for me. Let me try the relay race or the 600 meters, and I might come first in that. You see where I'm coming from? So I feel like, I don't know, Vicky probably can chime in this as well, yeah? I feel like where is the alpha male in it, and how can we bring him back? Because right now, there's a bunch of men out here, brothers in Chicago, in all these drill videos, will go out there and won't hesitate to go and shoot another brother down. But police will come and choke slam their grandma, and the man ain't no chat. What do you think, Vicky?
One of the things I want to just quickly say, just in regards to the whole narrative and social, etc., like in terms of social media. So I watched a documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, and what it talks about on there is the fact that how things are personalized to what you search. So it's like everyone believes what they basically just keep feeding you what you believe, and they try to use every search and image you stay. They know how long you stay on the image on Instagram. That's how much research they do. They know what videos you watch till the end. Would you skip over? And it's to build up a better understanding of who you are as a person, so they can better judge. It's like the whole artificial intelligence thing. So they can judge best how to basically feed you more stuff to keep you on your phone. So just in regards to what we were talking about.
What's the name of that documentary?
So it's called The Social Dilemma.
They're talking about cookies, isn't it? Cookies and all that.
Yeah, and literally it's like one of the things that made sense to me is they were like, they're going to show you everyone who shares the same opinion as you. So these people who have ignorant opinions, they just keep getting fed more and more ignorant opinions and views or videos of Black people in a negative way, because that's one of the things they do touch on in terms of people who are like far right or whatever. So yeah, that's just one thing I wanted to say.
Is that like the algorithms then, basically?
Yeah, but these are people that worked for these like Google, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and they're telling you it's down to they basically say like these companies know way more about you than you think and more about you than you know, because these are things you're doing without thinking. In terms of, I might stay on, they look at how many seconds you stay on a post, on a picture.
That's
And then
deep.
they formulate your adverts around that. What do you
That
respond to?
is
What do you not respond
very,
to?
very deep.
Honestly,
And they
so,
just so then they just feed you more of what it is that you want.
yeah. So for people who don't, for example, who aren't exposed to Black people or don't really have many females that are like, let's say, Black female friends or Black male friends who don't have exposure in large numbers, they're going to believe and buy into a lot of this stuff they see, because that's all they're going to keep getting fed, especially if they're watching it or paying attention to it. Whereas in the opposite way is, if you're not feeding into that stuff and you know it's not the truth and you're looking for posts that are more truthful, they'll feed you more of that. It's fine. They don't have an issue with what you believe, but they just want you to basically kind of stay onto it because they make more money. You know, the more you go onto your account, the more you look into it, the more money you make. But definitely watch it. It's interesting. In regards to the in regards to the alpha male, in terms of where he's gone, I feel like, you know, when you just feel like, I feel like they still exist out there, but at the same time as I'm saying that, I feel like, again, the attention's just been taken and it's been put into other things. Because nowadays, the way that alpha male's perceived is to somebody who's got loads of money. So a lot of men put their value in their finances, or they put it in what car they drive or what clothes they're wearing. And so it's just been influenced and kind of morphed into this different thing. Like, this is what the alpha male looks like. You know, someone that's getting a lot of girls, that's sleeping around with a lot of girls, that has a lot of girls chasing him, but he gives himself to none. Reality is you're going to get old one day, and that's going to get boring. Do you get what I mean? But it's like, where that's the narrative that's being driven in terms of how this alpha male nowadays, this modern alpha male should act and how he should behave. Obviously, it's harmful to society. So I don't think that they don't exist. I just think that the image of what that alpha male looks like has changed.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you know, it's true, because when you actually look at the amount of things that we pay attention to now, you know, the algorithm thing, yeah, I'm not even going to digress, but what you're saying was 100% true in terms of what they're doing, because I saw that with another documentary on Netflix. Netflix is, you know, Netflix has exposed my mind to a different side.
True.
Netflix uses the algorithm.
It does, because if you go on another person's account, you'll see everything they watch.
Listen, I know. Listen, Netflix is actually the one, because I'm just, you know, because I'm just a documentary. That's it. So just recommend every single documentary to me. And if you really go down that route of all of those kind of things, you know, you do learn a lot.
And you know what? It's mad, yeah, because I don't know who's in their office, but I know them documentaries they got some peak documentaries on there. But yeah, it's mad because they did that whole album thing with what's that documentary? The one where they're talking about Brexit, how they infiltrated the Brexit campaign and the Trump campaign as well. I'm gonna find that one as well anyway. But it was about.
But the thing is, Jesse, how do you think that we raise alpha males? That's like literally.
Well, see, the thing is this, yeah. One thing we have to start doing is going outside more. And we need to be outside more of our son. So, for example, with me, I take my son outside. I mean, if he's not in the nursery, throughout the whole lockdown, I was taking him outside every single day. I didn't care. Sue me, talk about the rule of 6. I don't care. Snitch on me. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, you know what's there? Like, I took my son out. No way I'm going to keep a flipping 2-year-old inside the house and telling him that, oh, there's a virus outside that no one can see and, you know, it's killing. Anyway, I took him outside and I just showed him the world in it for what it was. Obviously, yeah, a 2-year-old is only so much of a conversation you can have before he runs and chases the pigeon or whatever, yeah? But what I'm trying to explain to people is that...
Ain't he free now?
Yeah, it's going to be free next week, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be free. But obviously, at the time, I mean, I'm talking about lockdown times, isn't it? So when you're outside with young boys, I realize that there is a natural, there's a natural way they deal with the environment. Different to girls. Like when I'm around females and outside, females are kind of not in a funny way, not all females, but they're kind of in their own world. You know, they kind of caught up with what they're doing and whatnot. Whereas with men, take a young boy, for example, his little sister, he may walk on the roadside where he make his little sister walk more closer to the curbside and the pavement, because for him, it's like, raw, just in case a car comes or anyone, one's there. He may walk into a crowd and may tell his little sister to hold his hand. Some boys naturally do that. And I've noticed that even with my son, with Arcaden, yeah, it's like, there's the, he'll be like, oh, that's a nice car, or he will see certain things. And I feel like if you just have those points or those times in those times with your children, with your son especially, you get to teach them a lot of things, because outside you see a lot of things, you see a lot of things going on. What's happening now is that the kids are inside, especially the boys, on the Xbox, on the online thing, on the PlayStation 5. A lot of boys are not even working out. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I swear to you, no cap, in primary school, I could backflip. No, listen, hear what I'm saying to you, yeah? I could backflip, I could cartwheel, I could do anything you're seeing Power Rangers doing at the time, I could do when I was a kid. I swear to you. It's not even a joke. Now, like, I'm not even seeing kids on bikes. Like, I'm seeing teenagers, I'm talking young kids. Like, normally you see young kids on bikes with stabilizers. I don't even really see that. Like, I'm seeing young kids at the age of 5, they're in a buggy. What are you doing inside the buggy at the age of 5 or 4? Like, the big kid, like, the buggy's all like, buggy looks like it's got, you know, when
their sons, and they raise their daughters. I told you, fam, that's what it is. They love their sons, they raise their daughters. They don't want their son to fall over and get a cut on their arm and them thing there. Oh, he's gonna cut himself. Man, them will just get cut and then get up and start running.
Like, you see, this is the thing. So, this is exactly that. And what I'm saying is this, yeah, how we raise alpha males, yeah, is you got to really teach them identity from a very early age, yeah? So even now when I'm potty training my son, I'm showing him etiquette with certain things when he's obviously doing what he's doing, innit? But also at the same time, when it gets to the stage of them liking girls, you got to show them, like, bro, like, this is how you approach a woman. This is how you chat to a woman. You also got to let them understand that competition is very good. So you see, when you got men that can compete, like my nephew does BMX racing, yeah? And since he's done that, you can see in his mindset, there's an aspect of winning. You see where I'm coming from? So it could just be like, rah, dad, I'm going to race you to the bus stop. He's like, I can beat you. Dad's like, no, you're not going to beat me. Like, come, let's go. That sort of stuff there stays inside their cerebral cortex, goes around in their head. So when it comes to a challenge now in life, when it comes to a situation where they need to man up, they revert back to that time, or they revert back to that. You see where I'm coming from? So we need to teach our children.
But Jesse, I think I'm not cutting on what you're saying, because what you're saying is, but my thing is this: young boys need positive black men who are alpha males around them. That's what they need. And like doing decent things. So for instance, Kimari's got his uncles. We do like this whole 6 thing, that like all my brothers coming down on Sunday and I'm cooking. So I'm constantly surrounded by my family and my cousins so Kimari gets to see what men are like, and he knows that Uncle Chris is like, he knows, because my family they're not roadman. So I feel like you need positive black men like yourself and Wayne around young boys, so that they can see positive black men and understand what it is that they need to do.
You see what it is, what you're saying there is true, and you made a good point about especially the roadman type, roadman thing as well, yeah, because again, not to digress too much, but when they can see more men around them, they tend to want to be like them. So back in the days, we had brownies, yeah, we had scouts, we had martial arts. When you had a male instructor teaching you how to fight and defend yourself, it built a lot of self-esteem inside you as a man. Do you see where I'm coming from? So now the reason why I'm saying I want to talk about the roadman situation. The reason why I'm saying they shouldn't be around a lot of roadmen is because there's a lot of roadmen that are cowards. I swear to you, on the road, I'm not a roadman myself, I've never been, but I've been around plenty of them. And I can tell you that out of the roadmen that you're seeing and take away the one you're seeing in the music video. Out of literally 2,000, yeah, only 7 are really about what you're thinking. And then when I mean about what it is, they will do what they're doing on the road, but they always take care of their family. And even if their family was their estate or their block or whatnot, they also make sure everybody was fed. That's their mother. That's their. I was even watching the CBiz documentary, yeah, on Link Up. And CBiz had a brethren on there called Justo. And Justo, I think it was Justo and CBiz were talking about some other guy as well, some top guy that was there. And they were saying, right, like back in the days in the estate, he said, fam, we used to see bare things happening. There was one black woman that was getting evicted one time. And this roadman came up to her, saw the people outside there struggling with her and whatnot. And he said, well, what's the problem? She's like, oh, you know, they're trying to evict me, whatever. He just gave them £1,000, said, look, man, that's her rent paid, that's her, you know, whatever. Do you see where I'm coming from? Now, yeah, he's on the road doing what he's thinking, but that's a real man at the same time because he's taken himself into a foreign situation because the person that's, you know, having issues on his actual block and he's taking care of his block. What you're seeing nowadays with this whole roadman image is that a lot of people are faking the thing because that's what's marketable. Again, back to the narrative.
That £1,000 is going on a Montclair. Right,
exactly. The £1,000 going in a Montclair jacket, which is probably going to get torn up when he gets into a fight with his ops and he end up stabbing him and cutting him up. You see where I'm coming from? So get your kids, your son, your children away from roadman. But yes, like you said, me, Wayne, you know, ATM, a lot of other my brothers and family, I've actually said to myself once a month now, I'm going to come together, have a play date with the youths, but also bring the boys into that environment because I feel like what happens is that when they go to school, when they go to all these other places, wherever they are in the world, there's always going to be a reference to what a man should be. Like I follow people like 19 Keys on Instagram, perfect. I wouldn't say perfect like in terms of that, but you know, the best guy for the whole alpha male role model. People like Red Pill, you know, people like the hip hop, the hip hop motivator, that guy Eric, the one that's really always motivating these kids in their school. What's his name again, Wayne? Eric something. I can't remember his name again.
I can't remember, but I know you mean the one that talks to Dame Dash.
Like Derek Grace too. Nipsey Hussle was it's sad that my man's passed, but Nipsey Hussle was a very good role model of an alpha male because he's come from the roads and you can see